Okay, so looks like everybody's coming on, which is awesome. If you don't know what this is, hello, Martha. If you don't know what this is, every Monday night at about 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I jump on here for the weekly What Am I Doing Facebook Live Hangout. It's just something we've been doing for quite a while. This is episode 139, so 139 weeks. We've missed a few in between for various holidays and schedule conflicts and whatnot, but it's a lot of fun. We've been building a nice community here, and it's just awesome. I always look forward to doing it. If you're not watching this live, don't worry. You can watch it on my page after the fact, and for the first time, hopefully, assuming if this works out the way that I would like it to. This is kind of the trial run, test run, see what happens, see what needs to be adjusted. You may notice that I look off to the side a few times tonight differently. I am going to probably start filming all of these, if not most of these, to then edit, put together, and post on my YouTube page for anybody that's over in the YouTube community or maybe prefer to watch it that way as maybe a little bit higher quality version. The only thing is it won't be live on YouTube. It will be a replay recording, and I will probably post those closer to the end of the week, maybe Thursday or Friday. The recaps there. So if you're on YouTube, great. If you would like to subscribe to me, that would be awesome. That's a community that I'm starting to work a lot more in and try to build an audience there as well, which I talked about in a video that I posted last week on Tuesday, announcing that I had basically quit my job. Not basically, I did quit my job after 12 years of working the same job to become a full-time author / creator, which was really, really exciting. And I got lots of really nice comments and notes of encouragement from you guys, which was very touching and also just, really reaffirming that I feel like I've made the right decision. So hopefully that continues to work out. We'll see how it goes, but I got a lot of books in me, a lot of stuff I want to do. So this is really exciting. And this YouTube venture is part of that. So to be able to just create more content in general to put out to people is really all I want to do. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it. It's just fun to experiment. Hopefully I'll get to work more with my best friend and professional filmmaker, Jason. And maybe we can collaborate on some more stuff. I know you guys have enjoyed some of the short films that we've made there, but of course, first and foremost, the writing is my main priority. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But anyway, back to what this is. Every Monday night, the weekly Facebook Live, What Am I Doing Hangout. I basically cover 3 topics every night. I talk about books and books that I'm reading and enjoying or that I want to read, TV shows and movies that I'm watching. And then I also talk about any projects that I'm working on, whether that be books, the podcast that I have with Jason, Hallowed Horror Podcast, or anything else in the video audio space, YouTube now. I just try to keep you guys updated on everything going on. I love chatting with you guys, getting your feedback and opinions. I like to know what you guys are reading because anybody that's a reader knows that word of mouth and book recommendations go a long way in helping us find new books and new authors. Also, thank you to all of you guys who have recommended my books to people. So it's just a lot of fun. So again, if you're watching live, please jump into the comments. Say hello, ask a question. I like questions. The questions are always fun because the questions tend to get us off on the tangents that we go off on, which makes these evenings really interesting. But anyway, let's see. Hello, is it Deanna Harper? Hello, glad to see you. Carolyn Williams, hello. Tammy Hughes Gannon. I can't wait for your next novel. Me either. I'm excited for you guys to read it. Hello, Nancy. Thank you, Martha, for the congratulations. Hello, Mike. Good to see you, my friend. Glad you're here. All right, let's go ahead and you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let me go grab my notes. I should have done that first, but I was actually really late to this video because I lost track of time. I was walking the dog and I've been busy today. And then I realized it was almost 8 and I still hadn't set up the camera yet or the mic. And it was crazy. So I'm here and we're going to do it. Okay. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and get to the first topic, which is what am I reading? So I mentioned 2 weeks ago that I was actually going through a reread of Lisey's Story by Stephen King, which was published in 2006. And it was a novel that when I read it, I wasn't in love with. I am a huge, huge Stephen King fan. I mean, just humongous Stephen King fan. And I didn't really love that book. I mean, it was good. It was interesting, but I think, well, now having reread it, I definitely know I was too young to really, I guess, fully appreciate that story. And it was a little different for King. It definitely relied a lot heavier on like a romance, marriage perspective, some deeper meaning that, you know, in 2006, I was probably 20 or 21. I really wasn't ready to fully appreciate. And I was still reading King for the deeper scares and stuff like that. So that was one reason. It's always been on my reread list because I've often heard King refer to Lisey's story in his interviews that he's either done, verbally or written, that Lisey's story is one of his favorites, if not his favorite novel that he's written. So that always really intrigued me. So I wanted to reread it, but also because there is a TV series on Apple TV Plus coming out later this year. It stars Julianne Moore based on this book. So I just figured it was time, here we are, all these years later, I was ready to give it a reread. So I finished it. And I gotta say, it's still not my favorite King novel. It's a very heavy novel. It gets a little, I don't want to say slow, because I am always very hesitant to call a book slow, because I think just like art in general, pacing is very subjective with books. Some people just need the fast, James Patterson 1 or 2 page chapters to get through a book. And some people don't mind meteor reads. I love meteor reads. I love dense prose. But something about this book was just a little heavy for me, but I really did like the story quite a bit. I think it is fantastically written. So I was very, very glad that I reread it. It's still not going to put it like in my top 10 King novels, but I was very, very glad that I reread it. It has a lot of really good themes to it, and a fantastic, made up land that King created. Maybe one of his best made up kind of alternate worlds of any of his books. So it was actually really good. So I know several of you have said that you had read Lisey's story and enjoyed it, so I can definitely see why, for sure. But I did just finish that 2 days ago, and I started listening to the audiobook of You Love Me by Caroline Kepnes. Now, You Love Me is the third book in the Joe Goldberg You series. The first novel was You, and then I think the second book was called Hidden Bodies. The third is You Love Me. This is the books that they turned into 2 seasons so far of a television show on Netflix. There is a 3rd season coming out. However, the end of season 2 is vastly different than the end of book 2. So I'm assuming that the season 3 and book 3 will be very different, or have quite the departure from each other, which I'm okay with. I really love this main character, so I'm excited to see, different storylines with him. I'm assuming Caroline Kepnes has some say in the overall story for season 3, but I'm not sure. Anyway, you guys that have been with me for a while on these Facebook Lives know that I absolutely love the audiobook versions of these novels. I have not, in fact, read them. I've only listened to the audiobook. Santino Fontana, I believe, is the gentleman who narrates them. It is basically Joe Goldberg, because these books are written in second person, which, by the way, is very hard to do correctly anyway. And he just kills it. If you have seen the show on Netflix and like the kind of like inner thought, inner dialogue that Joe does throughout the show, the audiobook narrations are basically all that. But I love the guy that plays Joe on the Netflix show, but I think that the audiobook narration, that guy is just phenomenal. They're fantastic listens. So I am definitely enjoying listening to that. I'm not sure if I'm going to finish listening to that before I start reading another book. I can usually listen and read a book at the same time. I don't like to read 2 books at once, but I kind of put the audiobooks in a separate category in my brain. But if I do start reading a new book, I will probably read Hummingbird's Salamander by Jeff Vandermeer. That's definitely the book that I'm reading next, whether I wait until I finish listening to You Love Me or if I just go straight into it. while I'm listening. But Jeff Vandermeer wrote the Southern Reach trilogy, which is a fantastic science fiction trilogy, really, really way out there. Kind of hard to read, to be honest with you. They made a movie starring Natalie Portman a few years ago called Annihilation, which is a fantastic science fiction film. It stands alone. I don't think there's any plans to make a continuation of the movies, but anyway, they're really far out there, but they're fantastic. And this new novel of his is supposedly more of like a mystery kind of crime thriller, I think. And I really want to see how his prose fits into that genre. So I'm really excited to check that out. In fact, I think somebody over on my Facebook group, the Beyond the Pages group, had mentioned that they were reading that. I know they did. They mentioned they were reading it, or at least they were reading the Southern Reach trilogy, and they were also going to read Hummingbird, Salamander. So if you have finished that, if you've started and finished it, please let me know what you think, because I'm really looking forward to it. Let's see. Looks like I have a question. Mike says, Michael, when you are in the middle of writing a chapter and dinner is ready or you need to stop, do you finish writing your thought and pick up from there the next day, or do you finish the chapter or your thoughts first? You're curious. I do a little bit of everything with that. So, I can actually say that now my routine has changed quite a bit in the last 2 weeks since I've quit my job. So basically, before I quit my job, when I was still working a 9-to-5 job as an IT admin, I would only write in either the early mornings or during my lunch break. And when you are trying to write within the time constraint of 1 hour, you are always, I shouldn't say you, I was always cutting myself off mid-chapter. It would take me several days sometimes to finish one chapter. Same thing with kind of like writing in the mornings or on the weekends. When the time is up and you've got other things to do, you have to stop. What I usually do if I'm mid-chapter is once I finish writing, when I get to the point where I know I have to stop writing my prose, I'll hit enter one time and then I'll do an open parentheses and I will just make some quick notes, some almost like bullet points of like what is going to happen next in this chapter, because it's usually still fresh in my mind at this point. Like if I'm in the middle of an action scene, so to speak, or something is getting ready to happen that's kind of more action based, I can just put, hey, next she's going to go here, do this, find this guy, say this thing. And that will give me enough to at least quickly remember where I was in that chapter. I don't always need those notes, but they're just nice to have. But yeah, I stop in the middle of chapters all the time. I don't think I've ever stopped in the middle of a sentence unless I'm just desperately searching for a word or like the continuation of a thought. And I just get hung up for some reason, but that doesn't happen very often. Usually I will finish a sentence for sure, but I have definitely stopped writing mid-chapter several times, hundreds of times. But now with my new routine, being able to write, for much longer, prolonged periods of time, it's less likely that I have to stop mid-chapter so far for the last 2 weeks. But that just also kind of depends on how long the chapter is and how much energy I have. There is such a thing, believe it or not, as kind of like writing stamina, like how long you can stay engaged in writing and be focused and feel like you're giving it your best effort. And I have definitely seen that fluctuate with me over time, depending on how frequently I am writing. So I've already started to see that stamina kind of get stronger and go up over these last 2 weeks since I've been writing full time. So that's good. But I've also been able to now, since I can write for longer stretches, I kind of try to break it up. So I might, write 1,000 words and then take a 15-20 minute break and then come back and write another 1,000 words, which is a lot of fun. It's definitely more productive than I've ever been in quite some time. But that's a great question, Mike. Thank you for asking. All right, so moving on to the second category, what am I watching? My wife and I are still watching Breeders, the second season of that. Again, I think it's on FX. We watch it through Hulu, so I don't really know what channel it comes on. That's a great show. I don't know if you've watched it, but it's basically a family drama and comedy, but I really enjoy it. This weekend I watched the Masters. I'm a big golf fan. I mentioned that last week, I think. So that was, it wasn't the most exciting tournament, but it was still fun to watch. I love golf. And then my wife and I, we watched, this is a movie that I've been wanting to watch for a while and I've been kind of putting it off, but we watched Minari, which is a film that's actually nominated for 6 Oscars this year. It's a film about a Korean family in the 80s trying to basically adapt to a new life in Arkansas. They don't have a lot of money. It's a really good film. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Stephen Yin from The Walking Dead, he's the lead actor in that movie. He's actually nominated for Best Lead Actor at the Oscars. It was good. I think it's a beautifully shot movie. It's a fantastically well-made film. The ending fell a little flat for me. I was expecting a little more, I think, oomph at the end of it for some reason, but great movie. Not my favorite Oscar-nominated film that I've seen this year, but a beautiful film. The next movie that I would like to watch before the Oscars actually air near the end of this month is The Father, starring Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman. That looks really, really intriguing as well. I believe, I know that's about a film about a adult daughter dealing with her father's, it seems like, kind of descent into dementia, which, those are fantastic actors. I cannot imagine it's not going to be a great film. And it's definitely nominated for several Oscars as well. I used to be really, really good at being able to watch like almost all of the movies that were nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars before the Oscars aired. And then as I've gotten busier, it's definitely harder to catch them all. I watch specific ones now, but that's definitely one that I'd like to see. So that's really it for what I'm watching. I have a list that is so long of stuff I want to watch. Jason and I have another horror film that we need to watch. I need to watch it within the next couple of days, actually, so we can record our next episode of the Hallowed Horror Podcast, which will hopefully be out later this week. So that's it for what am I watching. When it comes to what I'm working on, I am still working on my next book. I've said this before. I know it sounds like a tease, but I'm still just not quite ready to share exactly what that book is about. It's not the 7th Lance Brody novel, but it is taking place in the Lance Brody universe, and the main character is a character that you have met before. So I don't want to say any more than that. I know that several of you have already figured out who this main character is and maybe what this storyline might be. But I just crossed the 30,000 word mark in that 2 days ago. So I'm at like 33,000 words, I think, right now. And that's really exciting because I'm getting very close to that magic number that you guys that have been with me for a while, I love hitting 50,000 words on a book. For some reason, that just makes it feel like a real novel to me. So I'm getting very close to that, and that'll be good. But I'm enjoying this a lot. It's good to be writing. I think I've mentioned this before. I love Lance Brody. I know you guys love Lance Brody. I mean, I want to keep writing Lance as long as my storyline can hold up. But it has been very refreshing for me to step aside from Lance for a little bit and write another different type of story with a different character. It's almost like hitting the reset button. I toyed with the idea for a while about whether I would wait to start this series, until after I got more Lance done. But after I finished Dark Holiday took a lot out of me. It was the toughest book I think that I've written. It took a toll on me at the end trying to get it all finished up for you guys. And I felt like I needed a reset. I felt like I did not want to go right into the next Lance Brody novel because I didn't trust myself to make it the best Lance book that it could be. So I really wanted to just kind of, step back and kind of take a breath and write this new story and kind of flex some different muscles with that. So that's been really exciting. I'm looking forward to you guys reading that. I can't wait to see what you think of it. But other than the writing, which is coming along nicely, knock on wood, been working on, obviously, the podcast with Jason, Hallowed Horror Podcast. Links, by the way, links for anything that I'm talking about, Patreon supporters, if you guys want to check that out. My book's on Amazon, the podcast, where you can get t-shirts and stupid stuff like that. It's all linked in the description of this video. So you don't have to go hunting for it. And the last thing is I'm working on making new content. The writing is coming along great, but there's a lot of other fun stuff that I'm working on. I've already talked a little bit about that at the beginning of this video, with, the podcast and then with YouTube. YouTube is a space that I'm really excited to get into for various reasons. I've always been kind of a video creative guy at heart. I grew up, believe it or not, I grew up loving cinema completely. Like I've always liked writing. I remember writing stories at a very young age. I remember writing, some plays at a very young age. But my second love really was movies and film. So I'm not saying that I'm a filmmaker by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. That's definitely more in Jason's wheelhouse. But I do enjoy making video. I like just kind of playing around with a different creative medium, such as videos that you can put on Facebook. I've got a lot of ideas for some fun stuff. And again, if you missed the beginning of this on Facebook, I am going to begin, assuming that tonight's test goes well enough, I'm going to begin filming these and posting them on on YouTube, on my YouTube channel later in the week as kind of a recap opportunity for other people to maybe check these videos out that maybe aren't on Facebook. And want to watch them that way. And it'll also be a higher quality version of this, hopefully, again, assuming that I have not screwed up something or some setting or some piece of equipment somewhere. But anyway, I also should have a new YouTube video posting. Okay, if you're watching this on Facebook, the new YouTube video will hopefully post tomorrow, Tuesday the 13th. If you're watching this on YouTube, the video is already there. Just go back a couple of days and find it. So, speaking to you from the future or the past, depending on which side of the coin you're on. Anyway, I think that's all I have. Got a lot going on. I'm sorry if this sounds a little like rushed or discombobulated. Again, I was kind of frantic to get down here and get set up for this tonight. This will go more smoothly, hopefully, in the future as I get more familiar with it. But I think that's everything. So, I don't see any other questions or major comments. Hello to everybody. I'm sorry if I didn't say hello to you by name specifically. I think that's it. I think we'll wrap it up. Again, if you have a question that maybe you want to have answered next week, if you're watching this after or if I just missed it, shoot me a Facebook message or an email. If you're on YouTube and you have a question that you would like to have answered in a future video, leave a comment down below. And that's it. We'll see how this goes in the future. So, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. As always appreciate your support. And I'll end this the same way I always do. If you want to do me a huge favor, if you have read any of my books and you enjoyed them, if you could go over to Amazon and leave a review saying you liked the book, that would go a really long way in helping me out. I would appreciate it. Reviews do a lot to help smaller authors. Don't just do it for me. Do it for anybody that you read. I promise you they will thank you. And thank you to everybody that has already left a review. So, goodbye to Facebook. Goodbye to YouTube. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.